Brad Williams, Excel Prime. Section 13.2, valuable lessons about conditional analysis that you'll never forget. A condition is a value or expression that returns true or false. Based on the value of the condition, a formula can branch into two separate calculations. Let me just give you an example. First and foremost, a true or false condition. True is if B4 equals B5, is it true or false? Well, 1, B4, and B5 equal each other. That's true. On the other hand, does B8 equal B7? 1 doesn't equal 0, so that's false. Now, getting into this conditional statement made up here, let me try to explain how this works. We're going to use an if statement. If A is true, compute that number. If A is false, use a fallback and use that fallback number or calculation. We have an if statement. If B4, here's B4, is greater than B5, do something. Well, what do you want it to do? Here's the condition, B4 plus B7. If B4 is greater than B5, add B4 to B7. Otherwise, if B4 is less than B5, add B4 and B5. We have, is B4 greater than B5? 1 plus 1 is not greater than 1. What the condition is, if B4 is true, and add B4 to B7. If not, add B4 to B5. In here, we have the formula, B4, B5. If B4 was greater than B5, B4 plus B7, what's B4 is 1, and B7 is 1. So why don't we change this, just to, because they both equal 2, why don't we change that number and let's see what happens here. Why don't we put 3 here? Here's an example. B4 is greater than B5, add B4 to B7. I mean, if B4 and B5 was true, then this statement says add B4 and B7, otherwise add B4 plus B5. Well, we know 2 is less than 3, and therefore we can't add B4 to B7. The fallback is to add B4 to B5, and that's what we did. The true part is, and what we're asking is if and B4 equals 1, B8 equals 0, we can do this. So what we have is we have a conditional statement here. And the condition is if B4 is equal to 1 and B8 is equal to 0, do something. If it doesn't, then do something else. Well, let's look. What's B4 equal? 2. What does B8 equal? 0. Both have to occur. If not, the condition is false. And if it's false, we ignore B4 and B5. And then we do something else. We add B7 to B8. Here's the formula. We end up adding B7 to B8 because B4 and B8 are false. And lastly, we have an or statement. We have if or B4 equals 1 and B8 equals 0, do B4 to B5, otherwise fall back and add B7 to B8. How do you interpret this? If B4 is equal to 2, or if B8 equals 0, then add B4 to B5. You have multiple choices. If either are true, then add B4 to B5. Otherwise, add B7 to B8. Well, B4 is not true, but B8 is true. And therefore, we can add B4 to B5. True, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. Okay? If it's true, you add second expression. If it's not true, then you add the third expression, and so on and so forth. That's a quick introduction to conditional analysis with more to come. Brad Williams, Excel Prime. See you soon.